Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Country star Phil Vassar plays the Birchmere this Sunday night in Alexandria, Virginia. I spoke with him in 2016 about writing hits for Tim McGraw, Chesney and Alan Jackson before landing hits of his own like Just Another Day in Paradise. Mr. Vassar, it's an absolute honor. Thanks for taking the time.
Well, how you doing, Jason? Thanks for having me.
I'd love to, get into your career and stuff, but first let's talk about the show. What if our listeners hear this and they head out to the Birchmere, what can they expect to hear? Working on any new stuff, a little of the old hits, a little of both? What do you think?
All of it, I think. We're doing, of course, we've got a new record finally this year, so I know a lot of our folks have been waiting for that for the last 4 or 5 years. So we'll be doing some stuff for the new record, and of course, we've done 8 albums, so there's a lot of stuff to cover, and I usually just take requests. I don't have a set list. I just kind of go out there. And, of course, anybody that's ever been to the Birchmere, it's probably one of the coolest places to play in the whole country. I mean, it's not a bad seat, and it's just if you like seeing singer-songwriters, that's probably the best place to go in the whole country. It's one of them anyway, for sure.
Wow. Have you played there a bunch before?
I've probably been to Birchmere about 7, 8 times.
Wow. I
would say total, and it's always just a big crowd. And, of course, I'm from Virginia anyway, so it's a lot of my friends come and show up for that deal, and it's just a great time. I love it. It's just one of my favorites. It's very intimate, and you can kind of do anything you want there. I love it. Folks there are great.
That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned you're from Virginia. A lot of our listeners might not even know. They've been listening to your stuff on the radio and didn't know you're from Lynchburg.
I am from Lynchburg, JMU guy. But anyway, yeah. So a lot of my buddies are in the Alexandria, D.C. area. I mean, it's always so fun to come home. Of course, my mom and my sisters always show up, and so it's just it's like homecoming.
Are they going to be there in the front row of the Birchmere?
Yeah, I think they probably will be. It's that's funny. Of course, my mom is, as most moms are, very proud. So she's something else. She's that sweet lady that just sits there and grins the whole time. I love it.
Well, tell I'm sure a lot of our listeners will be curious. How did you make the jump from little old Virginia to? Did you go to Nashville, or how did the journey into your country music begin? I know you started as a songwriter, right?
Well, I did. I mean, I was always an artist. I used to tour up and down the East Coast. I mean, we used to play in D.C. at the Bayou, and all the way up and down College Park, and D.C. and all the way up to Boston and Maine, and all the way down to Florida, for spring break and all that stuff. So we had like a little band in college and just out of college, and then then I moved to Nashville. I said, it's either going to do this whole deal and I'm going to do it, or just go. What do they say? Go big or go home. Yeah. So, I went to New York and I loved it. And I loved L.A., but Nashville just felt like home to me. It was like Virginia. It was like home. And I love it. I really, really do. And I'm just sitting out here on my back porch right now, and it's a beautiful day, and talking to you.
Where is this? Where is said back porch?
Said back porch is in Nashville. I live right in the middle of the city, and it's beautiful, and I got a bunch of woods around me, so it's a gorgeous setting. I'm very, very, very blessed.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. Now, tell me about your. I do want to go into some of your, your classic hits too that we all remember. But tell me about the new album you mentioned. What's the vibe with that? How does that maybe sound either similar or different than your previous stuff?
It's just kind of all over the place. There's some cool story songs, all the way to some really rocking songs, all the way to some, really kind of a earthy acoustic ballads. And so, I mean, I just grew up listening to everything. I'm not one of those. I hate a record that sounds alike. Everything sounds the same on the record. That just bores me to tears.
Right.
It's just like a show where somebody just stands there and it's just like, oh my gosh, I could just listen to the record and enjoy myself more. But so it's just I'm kind of like that. But the record is really, really good. We're we're in the middle of just starting our tour right now, and we're heading back over to London and in March to play the big C2C festival there, and back again in June. And so, I mean, we're just kind of all over the world right now, and it's a good time. It's a really great time to make new music, and it's just like a rebirth or something. I don't even know how to explain how fun it is to play right now.
That's almost like spiritual mode right there, a rebirth. I mean, why do you think it's just because you've taken a couple of years off between making new music? Why do you feel so touched right now?
I think that's exactly what it is. I think for me it was, I have a studio in my house, and that's where I record all my records. But I just kind of we've been touring so much incessantly over the last several years, but I always write, and I'll always come home and I'll record. So that we sort of record, we tour, we write, record, tour, and all that stuff. So you're ending up with all these songs. Like over the last several years, it's like I just mixed 52 new songs.
Wow.
So you're just going, holy smoke! I've got all this material, and then you just kind of weed through it and see what you like and what you don't like, and it's like the pressure's off. It's like I don't think there's any pressure at all. It's just like I feel like
Right.
I'm just out touring and I'm enjoying myself. Where everybody used to put all this pressure on me to do this or do that, and I found it was probably because I was making them a lot of money or something. Maybe
Yeah, right.
It's
Write
like,
me another
whatever.
hit song, Phil.
Yeah, I think we need some more. We need to tour some more, so you can buy another plane or what? What's the deal? I don't understand.
Right.
So it's good stuff. But I've really, really enjoyed being, on my own and starting my company, and it's really been a great 5 years.
Yeah, sounds like you're relaxed, sitting, doing some back porch sitting, and just living the dream now, man. That's awesome.
Well, it's going to be a busy year, though. We're touring a bunch. I tell you what, we have 4 shows. We started at the Birchmere and then have 3 more shows that same weekend. So it's a pretty busy time. But I tell you, I just love just coming home and coming to the Northeast. It's just like it's just I don't know. It's amazing to me, and it's like there's something about coming back to where you grew up. I was a big Petty fan, and Bruce Springsteen and Elton John and Billy Joel and Jackson Brown. I mean, I love singer-songwriters. Bob Seger and Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard was my first concert in Richmond. And so I just think, I mean, I've been very, very lucky to grew up with the Eagles and Henley and Fry and some of these guys like Bowie and Lemmy and all these guys are passed, and man, it's just killing me. It's killing me to see that, a lot of these heroes of mine.
Yeah, you mentioned the idea of the singer-songwriter. Why do you what makes that so special to you in terms of as opposed to someone that's recording other people's music? Why was it always important to you, and why did you think you gravitated towards those singer-songwriters?
I don't know what it was. It's just like I always looked at the songwriter credits. Lennon and McCartney, and I was a big Beatles fan, and I've always grew up listening to that. Jimmy Webb and people like that who were incredible songwriters that wrote all these songs for Glenn Campbell or whoever they were at the time, and I was just like, man, I mean, what? I was always intrigued by the art of writing a song, and I think for me it was just I was always very intimidated by that, and I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this or not, and I just figured out one day I was really trying to write songs like everybody else, and then songwriting is such a stylistic thing, and it's such a personal thing, and you have to have really your own voice, your own style, and once I started writing like that, and I think I got that advice from Bruce Hornsby, and he was he was like, I was writing all this stuff like everybody else was writing, and then lo and behold, I just started writing songs about the Bay, and growing up in Virginia, and stuff, all this stuff, and I was like, man, it inspired me. It really changed my whole outlook on that, and then lo and behold, that's when my success started happening, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Let's if you don't mind, let's go into a little bit into that moment in your life when the success started happening. Talk about, because I know you started, like, I want to say, like, in the, I guess, mid 90s or so, you started co-writing some really huge records for people that really blew up before you even, made it so huge on your own. But talk about what was it like working with Tim McGraw, because you wrote My Next 30 Years, you wrote For a Little While, some of his most beautiful stuff. I mean, My Next 30 Years we'll be listening to it 30 years from now. But what was it like writing for him?
Well, Tim is he's a stylist, and Tim doesn't write all that much, but I tell you what, Tim is one of the, Tim and Kenny Chesney too. I think of some of the guys like that are really amazing connoisseurs of song and songwriters too. They love great songs and songwriters. They're agonize over that stuff. So I've been really. It's just, I'm just lucky to get cuts by Tim, because a million people are trying to get them, And so, guys like that, if you get a cut, then you're very, very lucky, So, Tim's great, and Alan Jackson, people like that. Alan's one of my favorite songwriters of all time.
Right. You wrote Right on the Money, right?
Yeah, and to have guys like that take your song to number one or think it's good enough to be cut in the first place, man, is a real blessing, you know. So you're just, you know, you really are lucky to have that kind of stuff happen. But it's just all it's just a lot of luck involved, a lot of timing, and you know, I was here for a long time before anybody thought my stuff was any good. You know, I really was.
Where were you? You know, headspace when you wrote Little Red Rodeo for Colin Ray? How did that song come about?
You know, it's funny because I was sitting. It was like a day just like today, and I was just sitting in front of my piano. I was looking out the window of this little office, this little house I used to write songs in, down on Music Row, and there was this girl. She just stormed out of one of the little houses next to us, and you could obviously tell she was pretty pissed off about something, right? So I'm like, oh wow. And she jumped in this red Isuzu Rodeo, right? Mm-hmm. And she peeled out. And then right behind her was this guy walking out and just into the front yard, just stood there and watched her drop off. And I was just like, wow, she is mad at that guy. And I was thinking, you know, I've been that guy a bunch of times, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is about men and women. It's like sometimes it just doesn't seem like we can get along too good.
On the flip side of that, though, how do you've written it from the woman perspective with something like Bye Bye for Jody Messina. How do you change hats and, you know, how do you write something the complete opposite?
Well, the thing is I didn't. You know, I wrote it as a guy's song. I wrote it as one of my songs, and I could never hear a girl doing it. I couldn't. I said, I can't imagine a girl doing this song. And then Jody's like, I want to cut Bye Bye. I went, what? Seriously, I can't imagine. I mean, I really tried to talk her out of it. And I said, well, you know, I just don't know if I can really see a girl doing it. But okay. And then it was a huge hit, you know. And,
yeah.
And I'm all right the same way. It's like I had all these songs that I'd written, and nobody liked them. Mm-hmm. Nobody liked them. I mean, the publishers, the record labels hated them. Like Little Red Rodeo was they had a meeting about that song, about not letting that song come out.
Really?
You know, because they hated the song. Of course, it was a huge number one. So it sold million records, you know. And
what didn't they like about it? Why were they worried about?
Well, it was just, you know, whatever. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they didn't like about it. I didn't know, you know, but of course, you just can't ever tell. Colin was a big fan of the song, and, you know, and man, of course, he was right. You know, a lot of times, artists really know their audiences better than some guy sitting in a record company office. You know, they just don't know anything really, you know. And a lot of them think they do. So it's kind of funny because, you know, you get out into the real world and you start playing a song live and you see the reaction of the folks, and that's kind of what I sort of always go on.
Man, I don't know why. I'm just geeking out on hearing where, you know, all these stories about where you were when you wrote certain songs. Were you how old were you when you wrote My Next 30 Years? Were you around 30, or was that more like trying to write it for a younger audience?
No, I wrote it on my birthday.
Oh,
I wrote
wow.
it on my birthday. I woke up that morning, I was like, holy crap, you know, am I 30 today? I said, wow. And I literally went to a piano and I wrote that song down as fast as I could write. And I wrote it probably in literally 10 minutes. I wrote that song, and then I didn't think much of it. You know, I didn't think much of it. I just wrote it, and then I had a little. I used to play this little piano bar in Nashville, and I went over there that night and I played it, and everybody went crazy about it. You know, and it was just kind of one of those deals. You know, so you just can't ever tell. You know, what's going to work, what isn't going to work, and once again. The labels hated the song. They hated that song. Yeah. They didn't even want Tim to cut it. I mean,
Isn't that funny?
You know, Tim hated it too. Tim was like, you know, I hate my performance of My Next 30 Years. I hate it. It'll never be a single. You need to put that song out because you know you'll sing it great. You know. So, but then of course Curb put it out, and it was number one for, I don't know, 10 weeks or something crazy.
There you
I
go.
don't know what it was.
Well, it's okay.
So there you go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's okay. You ended up having plenty of songs of your own to put out. You'll let Tim have that one. But let's go into some of yours now. I mean, Carlene was huge. That sort of put you on the map. And then obviously, I mean, probably your biggest one, probably one of your all-timers that would make maybe some lists, is Just Another Day in Paradise. How did that one come to you? Were you sitting on your Nashville porch?
Nope. I'll tell you how that one came about. I literally, it was a crazy day that, you know, it was just a nutty morning. And then somebody was at my door, ran through my kitchen, and it was 2 inches of water in my kitchen. I'm like, what in the world is going on? Freaking out. My washing machine had flooded my kitchen. The hose had come unplugged and literally flooded my kitchen. And I'm like standing there with wet feet getting my FedEx package or whatever it was. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, so I ran down to the office to write that morning. I was all frazzled, and I was like, man, I sat there, and Craig, my co-writer, he'd had one of those days just like me. And it was just he said, man, I don't know what it is. I guess it's just another day in paradise. We said, let's write that. That was it.
It's funny. It comes from this strangest of places. I'm pretty sure Travis Tritt had a similar theme song the same year. Well, didn't he do Great Day to Be Alive? I always think of those as sort of the year 2000 pairing of just, no matter what's going on in your life, just take a step back and appreciate, sun's still shining.
Yeah, Daryl Scott wrote that song. And let me tell you, Daryl's a great songwriter. And I tell you, it was a big hit for Travis, man, but it's just like, it's perspective. Life is about that, and
yeah.
You just have to remember sometimes, man, people have it a lot worse than you do. I mean,
absolutely.
And I just think that every day. So I'm very lucky.
Yeah, I think Just Another Day in Paradise will be around forever. The hits going on, Six Pack Summer, American Child, That's When I Love You. I mean, in a Real Love, I mean, it's incredible how many you've rattled them off. And if you want to hear these songs, listeners, head on out to the Birchmere. Phil Vassar will be there.
We'll have a duet.
I'll sing it with you?
Yeah, we can do a duo.
All right, man. Cool. Well, best of luck, and we'll see you out there.
All right, my brother. Talk to you soon.
Later. Thanks so much for joining us on Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Remember to hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.